Hello, welcome back to the channel. A different sort of camp today. We've got a weather system called Storm Eunice coming in. Storm Dudley came in last night, I think, but down in the south here it didn't really affect us. But Storm Eunice is supposed to be quite something special. So I've chosen not to go into the woods today because they're talking about gusts of 70-80 miles an hour. And with Storm Arwen, with that camp we did during that storm, I think the gusts were 40-50 miles an hour. So I'd rather stay out of the woods for that. So I've come to this spot, which is arguably one of the highest spots around here. If I go over to the other side of this hill, I can see the Isle of Wight, and I'm about 8 miles inland from Southampton. So you can tell it's fairly high. And if I show you the view over to the back behind me, you can see it extends a long way. And I think the other way you can almost see to Salisbury. So it's fairly high up. And I've been given permission very kindly to stay in a paddock, a horse paddock. I've brought a tent with me this time. But I needed something which was going to be quite sturdy. So I've got a tent it's from Vango, it's called an Extreme Mark IV tent. The camera's going to fall off. It's an Extreme tent, I'll show you in a minute. I did try and Google it to get some stats for it, but it doesn't seem to exist. It's a geodesic tent. And the closest that I can see to it is a ridge tent from Vango. I'll try and give you a panorama of where I am. This is the tent that I'm using. It's a Vango Force 10 Extreme Mark IV. And like I say, I can't find anything on the internet about it at all. But I'll put it up and then you can see what it looks like. I'm really sorry about that. I thought I was recording, but it's not. Great. Well, the tent's up. Or the outer tent is up. I'm just going to go and put the inner up now. The inner tent just have these hooks that just hook onto the eyes. And then there are also these storm straps, and what they do is they go diagonally. So this strap here will go over to the one over the other side, but put those on in a minute. So as you can see, the storm bracing, everything's about diagonals in this tent, so triangles because they're strong. So you've got the diagonal there, you have the diagonal poles, which I think gives it its geodesic name, and then you've got guy ropes all the way around, plus you peg in the outer as well, which makes for hopefully makes for a very sturdy tent. We'll find out later. A couple of things which I haven't ever done before. One of them is this. I know that the fields are really soggy, so those little chairs that I normally use will just sink and damage the tent. And I saw this and I thought, well, why not? It'll be amusing. Hopefully it'll fit. It'll be a bit embarrassing if it doesn't, because I haven't got anything else to sleep on. I'm rather hoping that I've got this little flex tail gear pump, which I'm hoping is going to be man enough to pump this up. We'll see very shortly. So quite a long time later, I may have overdone it a bit. This chair bed thing is much bigger than I expected it to be. So it turns a 3-man tent pretty much into a 1-man tent. It looks like it might be quite comfy. Well, it's very comfy. It's not at all practical, but it's like a futon. It does have a beer holder, which is very acceptable. Now, there is another thing that I brought as well, which is equally... in fact, this is probably more glamping in the Storm than camping. I was looking at ways to keep warm during the day and in the evening, and I came across a Vango sleeping bag, and the Vango sleeping bag is called a Vango Radiate, and I thought, oh, what a good idea, you know, it, cheers, it would tick all the boxes, or it seemed initially to tick all the boxes. However, I ordered it and it arrived, and it was so small that I think I've said before, I'm 6'3.5", 6'4", and 17 stone, and I couldn't. It was like a second skin. I couldn't move in it, so I had to send it back. And I found that Vango also do a radiate heat pad, which I thought great, because then I can use my own expensive sleeping bag. But it turned up, and I did bring it out the last time I was out, when I was doing that spit roast chicken, which was, it didn't actually work, which is why I lit the fire that early. The heat pad is supposed to be 25 centimetres, which is roughly about 10 inches. So it's about 10 inches by 18 centimetres, which is 7 inches, 8 inches, something like that. So it's supposed to be about that sort of size. And I plugged it into my power bank, and an area about that big started warming up. But it didn't really warm up to anything that would be anything useful. And so I phoned the company up, I think it's called Camping International, and the chap there, very good, he said, no problem. He said, would you like a refund, or do you want to have another one? And I said, well, I wanted it, so I'll have another one. And he said, well, what I'll do for you first is I'll check it. I'll check the one in the shop and make sure it's not doing the same as the one that you've got, and I'll call you back. So he called me back. He said, yeah, this one's doing exactly the same. It's heating up, you know, this tiny little area. So anyway, he gave me a refund. So then I set about looking for something else, and I found a back warming heat pad in Argos, of all places, which is where this chair came from, as you might be able to tell. And it said it was 15 watts, and I thought, well, that might be an idea. So I went and picked it up, and I brought it home and had a look at it. No, it was 100 watts. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous for something that small, because we've got one of those fleecy over blankets that you plug in, and that was 100 watts. And so I thought, well, I wonder how long my power bank will run that. So I set about a little trial, and I put it on number 1, because I think there are 9 heat settings. So I put it on number 1, and after 6 hours it was down to 46%, which led me to believe that that would actually be quite a good idea, because when it is cold and you are sitting in a tent, you do want to keep warm. Now, I'm not suggesting for one moment that it's something that you would carry on in a rucksack and go out backpacking with it, because you need a power bank. But I did see someone who did a video, and they took a power bank out and they used an electric fan in a tent, which seemed a bit daft to me, because an electric fan is usually about 1.5 to 2 kilowatts, which is a lot, whereas these electric blanket things are 100 watts, and that's when you're running them flat out on number 9. So anyway, I bought another one of these fleecy blankets, which I've got here, and I'll open it up. I don't like doing unboxing, so we're not calling it an unboxing, but we'll just open it. And this thing is 100 watts as well. So my cunning plan is to use it just as a throw until a bit later when the wind kicks up a bit. These things are also machine washable, so they don't mind being in the damp too much, as long as they don't get it on the main side, obviously. But it's the size of it. It's 1.2 metres by 1.6, so it's long enough to cover your body and your legs. Let's try another quality zip. So it is literally just a fleecy blanket, and then it has a controller like so, and you plug it into the power bank. I don't actually want to use it at the moment because I'm quite warm, but I've started, so I'll finish. So, I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but it's on now. I'll show you a bit later when it's dark, because that'll probably be better for it. And it's got 9 heat settings, and you can have it on for a maximum of 9 hours before it turns itself off. So quite a trick piece of gear. Absolutely unnecessary in most situations, but still a nice to have. I decided today that rather than just cooking a meal for supper later on, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do tapas. So I'm going to get the cooker out in a minute. Well, there you go, there's a little bit of luxury. That's the electric blanket plugged in, and the camp setup, or should we say glamp setup. So to start with, because it says it's a starter, we're having Scottish mussels in a white wine sauce. So there we have mussels a la Storm Eunice with crusty bread, and the mussels are in a white wine sauce. I suspect I'm going to have to get my salt out, but alright. Oh, it's really good. Excellent. Well, there you have it. Proof of the pudding is in the eating. I decided I'd do some chorizo first, because I want to use the oil that you get off the chorizo. I mean, most people just use it for cooking, but it's actually really, really delicious if you fry it off until it changes colour, really. So there you have it. Chorizo, or cooked chorizo, egg mayonnaise on slightly chorizo toasted French stick. See what that tastes like. Delicious. So I think it's time for some garlic mushrooms. I've got some butter. See that going. This was the chorizo that I did earlier. Maybe you can see that. Argyle. That should be done there. God, they're good. They're hot. So this is king prawns in the chilli and garlic butter that was I did the mushrooms in. Turn the heat off and let them carry on sizzling. A little tapas fork. I love this relaxed way of eating, instead of having a big rush and a big meal at the end, and just little bits and bobs. Well, I've had plenty of food, and I'm just now waiting for this storm to arrive. The wind died right down. It said it was going to. It died right down, and I gather it's quite rough down near Bristol at the moment. So we'll see what happens when it comes this way. Everything's battened down. And everything's that can be damaged is in a dry bag. It's about 10 to 11, just before 11 o'clock now, and this storm system, Storm Eunice, is just starting to approach. Not windy yet, but it's just gently raining now. Drafty. The storm's doing its best, and it's certainly giving us a bit of a pasting, but touch wood, cross fingers, the temp's doing really well at the moment. I think from what I can see on the weather app, it's gusting at around about 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. And that's supposed to go up to about 62, 64 in a couple of hours' time. But we have another half an hour in bed, because it's really comfortable. I'm so warm and comfortable. It's delicious in here. So I'm going to stay in bed for a little bit, and then I'll get up and we'll take the anemometer out and see what's going on out there. So yes, I'll catch you in a minute. There we are. Just suffered a little bit of a knockdown there. Guessing this is what they were talking about. It's 9 o'clock now. Getting properly battered here. It keeps getting blown down. The inner's detached from the outer. The wind's doing to the outside. I've been outside. I will not do that again. I recorded 48 mile an hour gust, and I think it's about 10 to 10 at the moment, and it's due to be at its worst at around about 11 o'clock. Keeps flattening the tent, but after that I think it's going to start calming. When I say calming, I think that we're at 35 miles an hour at 5 o'clock this evening. Pity anyone stuck out in this. Well, that was an interesting one. It blew like hell for about 15 minutes, and it pulled 6 tent pegs out, 3 guys out, and it flattened the tent probably about 15 times. So I've just been out and plugged myself back into the ground, yeah, it's all back together again now and all looking good. Tightened a few things up, moved a few things around, but still alive. Well, I'm still here. Never let it be said. There's a small lull at the moment. It's probably down to about 55 miles an hour. So just take the opportunity for a quickie. There we go again. I don't think Eunice like that. In fact, I've got a story about that. I'll tell you another time when I'm not rescuing the tent. Well, I don't think it's disappointing it. Eunice is certainly not disappointing. She must be very cross. Getting smashed around here. The tent keeps blowing flat. Getting properly battered here. These things always seem like a good idea at the time. Just trying to hold the tent up because it keeps collapsing. There's some vicious wind out there. It's properly windy up here. I think the storm might have arrived. Tent's collapsing. Is it coming down? Woohoo! I think the storm's here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's the end of that little camp. There were a couple of really big gusts that were way over 60 miles an hour, and I heard one of the poles snap, and I went out and tried to jury rig it, but then I noticed that 3 of the other poles are bent, and this wind is supposed to carry on until something like 2 or 3 in the morning, and so I'd rather not get to the point where I'm having to take the tent down in the dark with the wind. So I've opted to give in sensibly and gracefully. I really hope that you've enjoyed the video that you're going to watch from this. It's been absolutely fantastic being out here. The power of this wind is just staggering. I've never been in anything like this before, and it's phenomenal. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.